Welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast. My name is Courtney Lovely Evans, and I have the privilege of serving as the Director of Athletics at Palm Beach Atlantic University. I've had the opportunity to participate in several NCAA leadership development programs that I believe prepared me for the chair, the Dr. Charles Whitcomb Leadership Institute, and Achieving Communication Success. Both of those programs allowed me to meet several thought leaders in our industry, as well as me working on developing my personal leadership philosophy. As a leader, it's important for you to communicate your expectations to your staff. At Palm Beach Atlantic University, we are developing Christian game changers, and it is our desire to be the standard in Division II.
Greetings, this is Ty Brown, and welcome to the One Question Leadership Podcast, where we highlight executive and organizational leadership. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 1Q Leadership. Our guest today is Bren Stevens. Bren is the Director of Athletics at University of Charleston. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Ty. I'm glad to be with you, and it's just finishing up a great convention here in Las Vegas, so we're excited and ready to keep rolling.
Which is excellent. Now, you've been in the chair there for 10 years, I believe, and at that institution for 30 years.
Right. Yeah. So I've been at the University of Charleston for 30 years and was a longtime volleyball coach. And then I served as assistant and associate AD, senior woman administrator, and then last 10 years as the AD.
Right. Excellent. I want to talk to you about a couple things. The primary line between the two is professional development. You were recommended for this podcast because professional development is your thing, is what I was told. And you put your staff through coaches and administrators. There are constant programs within the department on professional development. Before you tell me about these programs, because I'm going to ask about them, tell me about why you believe professional development is important, really in any industry, but specifically here in the college athletics industry.
Yeah, I think it's about investing in your people, right? So whether they're a head coach, assistant coach, GA, or full-time staff member, part-time staff member, is you want them to know that you love them and that you're going to really help them to grow in their role. And so I'm committed to that and making sure that we provide those opportunities for them throughout the year. And so we do a lot of things with our head coaches and then also with our assistant coaches and staff members. So they seem to like it. And that's one of the things when I do exit interviews as someone leaves our campus to ask them, what were some of the things we did well? What are some of the things that we can do better? Mm-hmm. They always talk about the power of those professional development sessions.
Give me a couple examples of what you do.
Yeah. So I do a lot around emotional intelligence. I think, to be a great leader, you got to first be a great leader of yourself, right? And so you have to be able to understand yourself and, know the 15 components of EQ and how you can develop and get better in those spaces. I always tell the coaches I'm not going to be able to coach them up on how to be better coaches in their respective sports, like the X's and O's of basketball or football, but I can help them grow as leaders.
And then is this a once a month, once or twice a month, ongoing, like there's always parts of it? Tell me how it's structured.
So I do 8 sessions for the head coaches and full-time staff, and then 8 for our assistant coaches and GAs, and so a total of 16 professional development sessions throughout the year, and that'll keep you busy, for sure. And we try to do them during the academic year because I want them to get some downtime in the summer. But we do things around. We did a lot with Nevin Capel's Return on Inclusion programming and talking about Black Lives Matters and how we can be better in the diversity, inclusion, and belonging space. We do a lot just on leadership, like I said, emotional intelligence, and just trying to hit things that we think are going to really help them to develop as coaches.
Are these every Wednesday night type session? Like, tell me what is the actual structure? Like, after my work day, am I going, or is this during the work day? Or tell me.
No, it's always during the work day because I try to do them in the mornings because I know they're going to go out to practices and things in the evenings and have games. So we do them in the mornings. But instead of doing like just a regular staff meeting, where someone comes in and tells you the same thing, 26 times, and you could easily put it in an email. That's not my philosophy. I like to get them together and we're going to improve together. And so we're going to talk on different topics. Whether it's mental health, just how we can be better leaders. We're going to, bring that together. And I have some coaches that are really good in that space that like to, talk and do their presentations. So it gives them a chance to kind of practice and do that with our staff. We'll bring in some outside groups, and speakers at times. And then I'll lead some of those sessions as well. But it just gets you out of the rut of like, everyone hates to just go to a staff meeting and talk about the same things all the time.
Yeah, which is excellent. Is there an aspect of a layered or tiered aspect, somebody who might be young on your staff versus someone who may be a veteran and has heard a lot of it over the last few
Yeah.
years and may need a different level of development or something?
Yeah, so that's why we kind of separate those out with the
Yeah.
head coaches and assistant coaches. But sometimes we have a younger, head coach as well that, we open the others up. And, if there's something that it's a topic I'm talking on that an assistant coach really wants to come be with the head coaches, they're welcome to join us and vice versa. So we just try to keep it, sort of informal, but an opportunity for them to just grow in their field. And so that's something that's really important to me. And, we just keep it going.
Do you send them to other professional development type conferences and
Yeah,
things
I'm big on that. Trying to always that I tell them I'm going to pay for your membership for your professional organizations. I don't care if you're head coach, assistant coach, GA. We're going to pay that, and I'm going to help make sure that you have what you need to be able to go to those conventions because I think that's where you grow. When I was coaching volleyball, out of 20 years, I think I went to 18 times to the American Volleyball Coaches Association convention, and I learned a lot by going to those sessions. And maybe as you've been there doing it for a while, you may not get quite as much out of it, but then you have that networking piece, right?
Yeah.
And so you get to be with your friends and continue to grow in your profession.
Yeah, which is interesting. I worked for a long time at the American Football Coaches Association.
Did
I
you?
was actually director
Wow.
of education, so I was the one putting together the program. And you start thinking about that, right? You can have stuff for young coaches because they're always coming into the profession, but what are you going to have for the people who are in the head coaching job and been there 10 years, right? You got to
Yep.
create something so that they can continue evolving themselves. I wonder about the outcomes of the programs that you put in place. How do you measure if this is effective in terms of what you're doing over the past, I guess, 10 years?
Yeah, we'll do a few surveys, but nothing that's, too formalized. I think it's more about just giving them that opportunities for their voices to be heard, for them to hear shared stories, to understand that, we're all in this together.
Yeah.
They love to hear when I mess up. And so, you got to give those examples and say, when I was in my 20s and 30s, this is what I did wrong. And I think they grow from that. So sometimes they'll come in my office and go, Bren, remember the time you said this? And so I know it does resonate with them. And then, like I said, I always try to do exit interviews with all our staff, whoever it is, when they leave. And it's been a tough year for us. Last year and a half, we've lost 8 staff members and 7 of them to Division I institutions. So we're kind of struggled with that and trying to find, great replacements. But again, it's just investing in those people and they're prepared to do that. And so they have that opportunity to make more money, just grow their careers. And I feel that I'm at least a little piece of that.
Yeah, so the perspective on that is interesting, right? We call it a tough year, but you emphasize professional and leadership development.
Yep.
So it sounds like it's a good year if that's something that you emphasize. But
Sure.
then you also got to think about the organization in terms of we just lost a big part of our culture of people
Right.
going off and getting jobs. So it may be bittersweet, but I think in terms of developing leaders and getting people ready for wherever they end up, it's probably something to celebrate, right?
Yeah, and when you hear back from them, they'll say, we kind of missed that professional development piece, Bren, and we missed that, you were just so open and we felt like we could come in the office all the time. There's too many layers now between me and that AD. That's one of the beauties, I think, of Division II is that you do have not as many layers. So between you and the students or you and your staff. And so I think that is how you can be a little more impactful, where I'm not saying athletic directors at a larger Division I are not impactful, but
Right.
a lot of times there's a lot of things that separate them and lots of layers that they may not get the benefit or the fun of, getting to mingle with your staff as much.
Yeah. Is this something you've been doing for the entirety of your time in the chair or?
Mostly, yeah. I mean, I didn't start, I don't think my first year, but I think as time go, I was started to introduce it. And then probably the last 5 or 6 years, I've made it like, hey, this is going to be something we're doing every year. We're going to do 16 sessions and we have to change them up. So we have to stay, current. And so coming to conventions and things like this, that gives me that perfect opportunity to listen from, we had some great speakers. We had Dr. Tim Elmore talked about the difference in the generations. And then we had Kevin Carroll. He was awesome, talking about, his story and things that he went through as a young, African American guy to now he's knocking it out of the park with his speaking and really impacting a lot of
Right.
people. And then this morning we had Ivy Watts, who mental health professional. So I try to steal as much as I can from people. And I think that's how you get better.
Thinking about when you bring people into the culture, bring
Mhm.
people into your department. Is there a way to tell if this type of thing will be well received? I mean, professional development is good for anybody, but
Right.
some people initially may be hesitant to think that I need to go to these
Yeah,
things.
I think like early on, I was a little bit worried about that. Actually, with some of our more veteran coaches, like what were they going to think, you know? And it was actually I started working on. I did an EQ assessment, so I went back to get myself certified to be able to do EQ assessments. And so first time I did them with like my head football coach, head men's basketball coach, I was kind of worried what they would think. And they were the ones that came, Bren, I love this. This
Yeah,
is awesome, you know, and they really felt like we were really investing in them. So yeah, when someone new comes in, I talk to them during the interview process. Is this is our culture on campus? Is we're all learning all the time. We're going to keep, you know, trying to improve as leaders, and we don't always have it all figured out. I don't always have it all
yeah,
figured out and make a lot of mistakes, but hopefully we can, you know, just keep trying to improve and get
right.
better.
Are those 16 sessions, do they, I mean, is there a thought process throughout the sessions? Like this year is focused on this, or is it here's a separate, each session is separate in terms of your professional development?
Yeah, we did quite a few different sessions last year, though. I did a lot more focus on diversity, equity, inclusion, because I think it was just a really hot topic, and it was just with everything that was going on and COVID and just all of the things that we were seeing in social media and on TV. I felt like it was something that we have a very diverse athlete population. So I was thinking about, you know, how do we talk to our student athletes about what's going on in the world? And I don't want us to ever, you know, stray away from being able to have those conversations. I don't want us to be too shy or too like worried that we're going to say the wrong thing. I told them I'm going to say the wrong thing. I'm going to put my foot in my mouth. But you know, all we can do is just say, "Hey, I want to get a better understanding,
Yeah,
right?"
coach
So,
me up, right?
yep.
That's interesting. So one other aspect you did it, and I think you did it right when you became chair, was created helped create an organization for people who women and minorities
Hmm.
in Division II
Right.
to become athletic directors. Tell us a little bit about that organization, why you created it, and what exactly it is doing
Yeah,
now, 10 years later.
yeah. I didn't create it, but I'm one of the
Okay,
facilitators.
one of the
So I want to give
facilitators.
credit where
Hit
credit
me.
is due. So that would be Jill Wilson, who
Okay.
has owns Double L Consulting, and she worked with the Division II staff, our vice president of NCAA2, Terry Steeb, and Ann Martin, and they sort of started this whole thing. And I came on later as a facilitator for probably like last 8-9 years. So most of my tenure as an AD. But I think we all have the same mission, right? Is like, how do we find a way to not always hire white men to be the leaders of these departments?
Right.
Nothing against white men. I love them. They're great. And then there's a lot of really close friends of mine that are great ADs, and I know they really lead in such a professional way. But I also want to make sure we're giving women and minorities an opportunity, and not to just say it, but let's like, you know, start lifting them up and let's get in there. So this program provides a lot of different types of mentorship. They have access to webinars with some of the best people. So like, let's say I'm new and I'm Ty, I'm like, I don't really know a lot about fundraising. Well, we have a speaker that comes in and does a whole thing on, you know, we can coach you up on how to be a great fundraiser. That should not keep you from getting in the ADC. You might just not have had the experience to try it, but you might end up being a phenomenal fundraiser. So that's what we're all about, is having these sessions throughout the year. And we just actually graduated our class this morning of 10 brand new mentees out there that I told people in the room, I said, let's help them get hired and get them in an ADC.
Which is excellent. 10 years. How many people have reached either senior leadership positions or athletics director chair?
Yeah, so we have 30 in the last 10 years that have, you know, that are now sitting ADs, you know, and not all at Division II, some at D3s or an NAIA school, but I don't care. I just want them to have that opportunity to be a
Yeah.
leader.
Which is excellent.
Yeah, and if Division I's smart, they'd hire some of these people away as well.
Yeah. So I'll ask this last question before we wrap.
Okay.
Leadership development, professional development, personal development are things that are important to me, especially when I worked at the Coaches Association in terms of putting those things in place.
Sure.
Has that, people who have worked for you, who have gone on to other places, has that become infectious as they become more influential in their career in terms of responsibilities? Do they follow up like, hey, we put this program here, we put this program there? Hey, that's the first part of the question. Second part, do you ever bring them back to be a part of your professional development sessions on campus?
Great question. I have not brought them back, but now you're like making me think
Let's
about
go
it.
entrepreneurial.
Yes,
See,
Ty, you're making me think about this now. So I'm gonna I'm definitely going to implement that, put that in there. But that's a great suggestion.
Hmm.
Yeah, a lot of them are taking pieces of what we do and are doing that on their own campuses, and just trying to if they're even like say an assistant or associate athletic director at another university D1, they're trying to coach up their AD a little bit. Like, hey, this is what we did at Charleston, and I'm very proud of that. But no, now I got to really think about this.
Which is interesting. Well, I have a saying that's a part of my philosophy is that all leaders should ask themselves, is working for you more than just another paycheck, right?
Right.
And I think working for you is definitely more than just another
Well,
paycheck
thank
because
you.
people are learning how to be better leaders, learning how to be
Mhm.
better at what they're doing and what they could possibly do in the future. I really appreciate you joining us here on the One Question Leadership Podcast.
Thank you, Ty. And it's just my honor to get to talk to you today and to get to meet a new friend. And thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. That was Bren Stevens. He is the Director of Athletics at University of Charleston. And of course, this is Ty Brown with One Question. And keep in mind, the role of a leader is to create and maintain an environment that people want to be a part of. And as always, be better tomorrow than you are today. This episode of the One Question Leadership Podcast is produced by Spades Media Group, solving problems using creative leadership.